On a bright, peaceful afternoon, when the sunlight fell in soft golden streaks across the parking lot of a classic red-trimmed diner, something heartbreaking unfolded, something so cruel and unexpected that it could shatter even the strongest heart. It began with an elderly woman named Marina Holt, standing quietly outside the diner with her small purse, her fragile hands trembling as she tried to read the lips of the teens around her. They weren't helping her. They weren't asking if she was okay. Instead, they were filming her, mocking her, circling around her like predators who found amusement in someone else's pain. And in that moment, the world felt painfully unfair. Before we go deeper into this story, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to because stories like these deserve to be heard. Marina had come to the diner alone that day, as she usually did. She was 83, gentle, soft-spoken, and completely deaf after an illness took her hearing years ago. She lived alone in a small apartment filled with old photographs and quiet memories. Every afternoon she visited the same diner, not because she loved the food, but because she loved watching life move around her, the laughter, the families, the little moments she could still feel even if she couldn't hear them. It made her feel less alone. But on this particular day, the laughter wasn't warm. It wasn't kind. The teens who approached her, led by a boy named Troy Maddox, the kind who bragged loudly but carried little inside, were looking for entertainment. They started recording her on their phones, exaggerating their lip movements so she would misunderstand, clapping behind her head to see if she would react, snatching her napkin, pretending she dropped things she never had. Marina could read their faces enough to see the mockery, but she couldn't understand the words. They might as well have been knives carved from silence. She tried to ask for space. She tried to tell them she couldn't hear. But as she moved away, Troy pushed forward, pretending to interview her with a microphone he carried for his online pranks. His friends doubled over laughing as the camera continued filming her frightened face. Then Troy nudged her shoulder, not hard, but hard enough to throw off her already weakened balance. She fell to the ground, her palms scraping harshly against the asphalt. The burger she had bought for herself rolled away, untouched. She reached for it with trembling fingers, trying to hold onto something familiar, something stable, while her eyes filled not with tears, but with a deep, aching grief that lived in the silence around her. The teens laughed harder. Cars passed. People watched. No one stepped in. Marina tried to push herself up, but her hands were shaking too much. She looked lost, like a small leaf being blown by a cruel wind, powerless against it. That was when the rumble began. It started faint, distant, like thunder rolling beneath the ground. The teens kept laughing, ignoring it. But the rumble grew louder, deeper, vibrating through the pavement until even the bullies paused. Heads turned. The rumble multiplied, one motorcycle, then another, then several more until the sound became impossible to ignore. A group of 9 bikers, dressed in black leather and steel badges, pulled into the diner parking lot in a slow, deliberate formation. These weren't loud, wild bikers. They moved with purpose, like a shield made of engines and grit. Their vests read, Guardians of Solace, a group known locally for helping elderly residents, veterans, and vulnerable people who lived alone. At their front was a towering man with a white beard braided at the end, named Rogan Vale, someone people whispered about in town, gentle until pushed, calm until something challenged his sense of justice. The moment Rogan saw Marina on the ground, something behind his eyes changed. He didn't need sound to understand what had happened. Pain looked the same in every language. Disrespect looked even uglier. He turned off his bike and stepped forward with a controlled fury that made the air feel heavier. His boots punched softly against the asphalt as he walked, his shadow falling over Troy and the others like a warning carved from sunlight. The rest of the bikers fanned out behind him, forming a half-circle between Marina and the teens. Troy tried to speak, tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. Before he could explain or excuse, Rogan crouched beside Marina with surprising gentleness. He placed a large hand behind her back, helping her sit up, then carefully picked up her fallen burger as though it were something priceless. Marina looked up at him with confusion first, then relief, and then something soft, something like being seen for the first time in a long time. Rogan wasn't angry at her, he was furious for her. He stood slowly, turning to the teens, his expression hardening like stone. The silence between them was louder than any shout. The teens lowered their phones, shame flooding their faces. They had expected someone helpless. Instead, they had found a wall. Without raising his voice, Rogan signaled one of his group, a woman named Kira Vale, who gently helped Marina to her feet. She signed slowly, clearly, telling Marina she was safe now. And for the first time in a long while, Marina felt protected. The bikers didn't yell. They didn't threaten. They simply stood there, 9 figures of quiet defiance and dignity. Sometimes the strongest justice is the one delivered without a single spoken word. The teens backed away, each step smaller than the last. Their shame burned hotter than anything Rogan could have said. They left in silence, their earlier cruelty dissolving under the weight of real strength. Rogan then walked Marina to a diner booth. The staff, who had watched nervously, came forward with warm drinks and a fresh meal. Kira stayed by Marina's side, signing patient words of comfort. Rogan stood at the entrance, guarding the space like a sentinel until Marina finally smiled again, soft, grateful, and a little stronger than before. Near the end of her meal, Marina reached for Rogan's hand. She couldn't hear his voice, but she could read lips well enough to catch the quiet promise he made, that she was never alone, that kindness still lived in the world, louder than any cruelty. If this story has touched your heart today, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Stories like this remind us that even in daylight, even in busy places, humanity can choose to shine. Before we end, please take a moment to comment below something kind you would want someone elderly or vulnerable to hear today. It might mean more than you think. And so, on